Ava stepped out of her small hover car onto the polished platform of Solaris Tower. The hotel floated above the city, glowing with lights that shimmered like stars. Its glass walls reflected the orange and blue of the sunset, and the anti-gravity platforms beneath hummed quietly. Ava's eyes scanned the massive structure. It was a marvel of engineering. Many people had told her that this hotel was impossible to reach without the proper clearance. But Ava had her reasons for coming. She carried a sleek case in her hand. Inside was her prototype device, a small but powerful invention that could stabilize energy grids anywhere. The device could save entire cities from power failure, and Ava knew it was her duty to show it to the right people. Her heart beat faster with anticipation. Solaris Tower was more than a hotel. It was a symbol of wealth, technology, and power. But Ava did not care about money. She wanted to prove that knowledge and talent could overcome barriers. As she approached the main entrance, security drones hovered nearby. Their metal frames gleamed under the tower's bright lights. They scanned her from top to bottom with red sensors. Ava stopped for a moment. The drone's programming was advanced, but she knew it had weaknesses. She breathed calmly and held her case closer. A man in a crisp uniform came out from behind a glass door. His hair was perfectly combed, and his smile was polite but cold. "Welcome to Solaris Tower," he said. "Do you have a reservation?" Ava opened her mouth to explain. "I am Ava Thomas. I am here to demonstrate a prototype device to your management team. I have authorization from the City Council and a letter from the Energy Commission." The man's eyes narrowed slightly. He glanced at the drones behind her. "I'm sorry, ma'am. We do not allow unauthorized visitors. You will need to leave immediately." Ava's lips pressed into a thin line. She had expected this resistance. People in power often reacted with suspicion when someone outside their circle arrived. She took a calm breath. "I assure you, I have proper authorization. My project can prevent energy collapse in urban centers. I only need to meet your technical director. This will benefit your hotel and the city." The man hesitated. He looked at the drones and tapped something on his tablet. "Security, please escort her out." Ava's jaw tightened. She did not panic. Instead, she observed the drones' movements. They hovered in a triangular formation. Their scanning beams swept over her slowly. She noticed the gaps in their patrol patterns. It was enough to give her an idea. She spoke softly, almost to herself. "It is not just strength that matters. It is knowledge." The drones started to move toward her. Their metal arms extended slightly. Ava opened her case, revealing the device. It emitted a faint glow. The manager's eyes widened for a moment, but he quickly looked away, pretending not to notice. Guests walked past, their attention drawn by the unusual scene. A few whispered to each other. "Who is she? Is she in trouble?" Ava could feel the tension, but she held her head high. She knew she had to remain calm and confident. Authority was not always about who shouted the loudest. Sometimes it came from presence, intelligence, and courage. The manager spoke again, louder this time. "I said, you must leave. Now." Ava carefully set her case on the floor and lifted a small panel on the device. It hummed softly, a sound almost musical. "I understand your concern," she said. "But I am not here to cause trouble. I only want to help. If you allow me 10 minutes, I can demonstrate how your hotel's energy grid can be stabilized. It will prevent failures that could affect every guest." The manager's face turned red. He waved his hand toward the drones. "Enough. Take her away." Ava stepped back and activated a small holographic display from her device. A projection of the hotel's energy grid appeared in the air. Lines of light traced through the building, flickering at points of instability. "See here," she said, pointing at a section of the grid. "This area has a weak connection. If a surge occurs, it could shut down the entire tower. I can fix it immediately." Some guests stopped to watch. Their whispers grew louder. The manager looked uncomfortable. He had never expected a visitor to understand the systems better than his own staff. He tapped his tablet nervously. "This is not part of your authorization. You are causing a disturbance." Ava ignored his words. She crouched slightly to examine the holographic lines more closely. Her fingers moved in the air, adjusting the projections. "Your security drones are excellent at scanning physical threats," she said, "but they cannot detect errors in energy flow. That is where I can help." A young staff member, a technician named Leo, peeked from behind the glass doors. He whispered to a colleague, "She knows the grid better than anyone here." "I think she is telling the truth." Ava noticed the subtle gestures. She smiled faintly. The situation was delicate. One wrong move, and the manager could call for external authorities. But she had to act quickly. She focused on the device and sent a pulse through the holographic lines. The weak section began to stabilize. The lights flickered, but stayed on. A soft vibration hummed through the floor. The guests gasped. A few clapped quietly. The manager's jaw tightened. He could not understand how someone he had dismissed as an intruder could fix a problem that had troubled his staff for months. "How are you doing this?" he demanded. Ava stood upright, her eyes calm and steady. "I study systems. I understand patterns. Your technology is impressive, but even the best systems need someone who sees beyond the surface." The manager glanced at the drones. They hovered silently, their red sensors sweeping over her. He realized that they could not interfere with the energy grid without causing more problems. Ava had taken control without breaking any rules. Leo, the technician, stepped forward cautiously. "Sir, maybe we should listen to her. She is right. The grid is stabilizing." The manager shook his head. "I cannot allow an outsider to dictate how we run this hotel." Ava held her hand slightly raised. "I am not dictating. I am showing what is possible. 10 minutes of your time, and I can prevent a major failure. That is all I ask." The guests' whispers turned into murmurs of approval. Some recorded the demonstration on their devices. The manager felt pressure. He realized that every person present could see the truth. Refusing Ava now would make the hotel appear incompetent and unjust. Ava smiled faintly. She adjusted the device once more. Lines of energy flowed smoothly across the projection. Lights in the hotel stabilized, and elevators resumed movement. The hum of machinery became steady. The guests cheered quietly. The manager swallowed hard. He looked at Ava, then at the guests, and finally at his staff. He knew he had been wrong to judge her at first glance, but pride kept him silent. He motioned for the drones to stand down, though his face remained tense. Ava packed her device carefully, still calm. She had made her point. Knowledge, patience, and courage had given her an advantage. She had not shouted, fought, or demanded. She had simply shown what was possible. Leo approached her, his eyes wide. You really did it." "I have never seen anyone understand the system like that." Ava nodded politely. "The right knowledge and the right tools make a difference. Remember that. It is not just machines or rules that control outcomes. It is the people who understand them." As she walked toward the lobby, Ava noticed the subtle nods from other guests. Some smiled at her. Others whispered excitedly. She felt a sense of satisfaction. She had arrived as an outsider, yet she had already begun to change the perception of those around her. The manager called out, his voice slightly softer. "Wait, who are you exactly?" Ava turned briefly, her expression calm. "I am someone who believes that systems, no matter how complex, can be improved with patience, skill, and fairness. That is all you need to know for now." She continued, walking into the heart of Solaris Tower, ready for the next step. The device in her case pulsed gently, as if acknowledging the progress she had made. Ava knew that the real challenge was just beginning, but she felt confident. She had already shown that knowledge and courage could overcome prejudice and doubt. Above the city, Solaris Tower shone brightly. Ava walked among its guests and staff, a quiet force of change. Her arrival had caused tension, but it had also inspired hope. In a world where appearances often misled people, she had proven that one person's talent could make a difference in 10 minutes. Ava moved deeper into Solaris Tower. The lobby was enormous. With crystal-like walls that reflected the bright lights above, floating platforms carried guests smoothly from one level to another. The air smelled faintly of clean energy and polished metal. Despite the beauty, Ava noticed subtle flaws in the system's tiny gaps in the security monitoring. Small areas where the lighting flickered, and sensors that occasionally failed to track movement. Her mind cataloged every detail as she walked calmly toward the hotel's central operations hub. The manager had not followed her, but his presence was felt everywhere. Staff whispered among themselves, some glancing nervously at the drones that still hovered silently, ready to act at his command. Ava's arrival had disrupted the careful order he maintained, and she could feel the tension in the air. The manager believed that his authority alone could control the situation. Ava knew better. Authority without knowledge was fragile. She reached the first elevator platform. A young staff member, a woman named Mira, hesitated before letting Ava enter. "You are allowed?" Mira whispered, glancing at the hovering drones. Ava smiled slightly. "I only need 10 minutes with the technical director. After that, I will leave if you ask." Mira studied her for a moment, then nodded and stepped aside. Ava's calm confidence had a quiet power. People instinctively trusted someone who did not panic or demand. As the platform rose, Ava examined the hotel's infrastructure through a small portable device she carried. The display showed a map of energy flows, security coverage, and platform activity. She noticed small inefficiencies that could escalate if ignored. The doors opened to a vast operations hub. Screens lined the walls, showing live feeds of every room, every elevator, and every platform. Engineers and technicians moved quickly, adjusting settings and monitoring systems. Ava spotted a man at the center, focused on a holographic projection. This was the technical director named Omar. His expression was serious, but his eyes were curious. "Good evening, Ava," said calmly as she approached him. "I am Ava Thomas. I have a device that can stabilize your energy grid and prevent failures across the hotel." Omar glanced up. His eyes widened slightly at the projection of Ava's device. "You are the one causing the commotion downstairs?" he asked. "I saw the lights flicker," Ava replied. "But not in a harmful way. I only want to help. Your systems are impressive, but I have identified weak points that could affect safety and operations. I can fix them in minutes." Omar studied her for a moment. He was cautious, but Ava noticed his curiosity growing. "You have authorization?" he asked. Ava nodded. "From the City Council and the Energy Commission, they requested this demonstration. The manager may not believe it, but I assure you, the system's integrity is at stake." Omar motioned for her to follow him closer to the central console. Ava noticed that some staff members glanced at her device with interest. She had already gained their trust through action. "Even if the manager refused to acknowledge her, let's see what you can do," Omar said, though he spoke softly so the manager would not hear. Ava quickly connected her device to the hotel's grid interface. Holographic lines lit up in the air, showing unstable sections, energy surges, and points of high stress. The patterns were complex, but Ava's eyes moved over them with ease. "Here," she said, pointing at a weak node. "If a surge occurs here, it could shut down half the elevators and the floating platforms. Your sensors would detect it too late to prevent panic." Omar leaned closer. "That section has been giving us trouble for weeks. We could not stabilize it without shutting down other systems." Ava smiled faintly. "I can stabilize it without affecting the rest of your infrastructure." She adjusted the device carefully, sending pulses through the holographic grid. The weak node pulsed in sync with the rest of the system. The lights in the hub flickered, then glowed steadily. The elevators on the monitoring screens resumed smooth operation. The floating platforms stabilized. Technicians around them whispered in amazement. Omar's eyes widened. "How are you doing this?" he asked, genuinely impressed. Ava looked at him calmly. "Understanding systems is about patterns and relationships. Machines and rules can only take you so far. Knowledge and observation complete the equation." Suddenly, an alert flashed on one of the screens. The manager had activated external security protocols. The drones downstairs began to move toward the lobby, preparing to enforce his orders. Ava did not panic. She had anticipated this. "Your drones are excellent at enforcing physical rules," she said to Omar, "but they cannot interpret the state of the energy grid." If a surge happens while they intervene, they could cause damage. I need access to the main control panel to stabilize the entire tower safely. Omar hesitated. The manager will be angry if he finds out. Ava nodded. Perhaps. But the safety of the hotel and the guests is more important than pride or appearances. Omar took a deep breath. Very well. I will grant you access. But do not break anything. Ava activated the main panel. Holographic lines spread across the entire hotel. Energy pulses traveled through every floor, every elevator, and every floating platform. She identified multiple weak nodes and began sending precise stabilizing pulses. The hotel responded immediately. Lights stopped flickering. Elevators moved without interruption. Platforms hummed smoothly, carrying guests safely. Guests and staff began noticing the difference. Murmurs turned into applause and smiles. Some guests recorded the event on their devices, sharing it with others in the hotel. Ava's quiet confidence and skill had already won their admiration. The manager appeared in the hub, his face red with anger. "What is happening here?" he shouted. "I told you to remove her." Ava looked at him calmly. "I am preventing a failure that could have affected every guest in this hotel. Your drones cannot do this. Only knowledge and precise action can." The manager's jaw tightened. He realized that he could not order the drones to interfere without risking damage. He had assumed authority could replace skill, but Ava had proven otherwise. Omar stepped forward. "Sir, she is right. The grid is stable. We could not have done this without her." The manager's eyes scanned the room. Guests were watching. Staff were nodding quietly. He realized that resisting Ava now would make the hotel appear incompetent and unfair. Pride battled logic in his mind. Ava did not raise her voice. She continued to monitor the grid, making small adjustments as needed. Each correction caused the lights and platforms to respond smoothly. The hotel now functioned more efficiently than ever before. A young engineer, Kai, whispered to another technician, "I have never seen anyone control the system like this." "She is incredible," Eva smiled faintly. "It is not about control. It is about understanding and helping. Machines and rules are only tools. Knowledge and care are what make a difference." The manager finally turned away, defeated but silent. His authority had been challenged, and he could not deny the result. The hotel was safe, the guests were happy, and Ava had achieved what many thought impossible. Omar shook his head slightly, impressed. "You are remarkable. Not many people can do what you just did. The hotel is functioning perfectly because of your expertise." Ava nodded politely. "Thank you. My goal is not recognition. It is to ensure safety and efficiency. That is all." Guests in the hub began approaching her quietly, asking questions and praising her work. Ava answered politely, always calm, always professional. She had turned a confrontation into an opportunity to demonstrate her skill and integrity. The manager retreated to his office. Unwilling to face the growing admiration for Ava, he realized that authority without knowledge was fragile and temporary. Ava had arrived as an outsider, yet she had gained respect through action, intelligence, and courage. As the night continued, Ava moved among the technicians, showing small improvements and adjustments that further enhanced the hotel's systems. Every correction, every stabilizing pulse, impressed those who watched. She was quiet but powerful, gentle but firm. The guests and staff could see the difference she made immediately. By the end of the evening, the lobby and hub were calm and orderly. The drones hovered quietly, inactive. The guests returned to their suites, some smiling and whispering about the extraordinary woman who had saved the hotel's operations. The staff looked at Ava with admiration. She had earned their respect without a single raised voice, without a single demand, and without breaking any rules. Ava stood for a moment, observing the hub. Her device pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. She had completed her first goal, proving her ability and her knowledge. But she knew the true challenge was still ahead. The manager's pride and resistance remained a potential obstacle. She would need to use her skill, patience, and intelligence to fully transform the situation. Above the city, Solaris Tower glowed brighter than ever. Inside, a quiet revolution had begun. One person's knowledge, courage, and dedication had begun to change the perception of everyone around her. And Ava walked calmly into the heart of the tower, ready to continue her work. Knowing that every small victory brought her closer to achieving something far greater, Ava walked through the Solaris Tower quietly, her steps steady on the polished floor. She observed every detail around her. Not just the impressive lights and floating platforms, but the small areas that required improvement. The hotel's technology was powerful, but Ava had the experience to see where human oversight and old routines left gaps. These were opportunities to make things better. She approached the central control hub once again. Omar, the technical director, was busy with routine checks, but he noticed her coming. "You are still working on the system?" he asked, genuinely curious. Ava nodded. "Yes, the grid is stable. But there are inefficiencies that could affect energy consumption and platform movement if left unchecked. A few adjustments will make the hotel run smoother and safer." Omar glanced at the holographic display she carried. Lines of light traced through the hotel showing energy flows, platforms, and sensors. "I've never seen anyone interpret the system like that," he said softly. Ava smiled faintly. "It is about understanding the flow and relationships within the system. Every part affects another. If one area fails, it can ripple across the entire hotel. The drones are useful for physical security, but they cannot interpret complex energy patterns or prevent a cascade of failures. That is why knowledge matters more than force." Suddenly, an alarm flashed on the central monitor. A minor surge had appeared in one of the hotel's older sections. The manager had attempted to reroute energy manually, but his adjustments caused instability in the elevators. Ava moved quickly, connecting her device to the central panel. She traced the surge and sent stabilizing pulses through the network. The lights steadied, elevators resumed smooth movement. The floating platforms aligned perfectly. Guests on the observation level below looked up in surprise. Some clapped quietly. The murmurs reached the manager's office. He realized that every attempt to assert authority without skill had failed. His pride had blinded him to the power of competence. Ava had demonstrated that intelligence, and careful action could achieve what rules alone could not. Ava turned to Omar. "If the grid is maintained properly, the hotel will operate without interruption. The staff will not have to make emergency adjustments that risk error. This will also improve guest satisfaction." Omar nodded. "She is right. The hotel is functioning better than it ever has." The manager stormed into the hub, red-faced. "Enough," he shouted. "This is my hotel. I decide who can act and who cannot." Ava faced him calmly. Her voice was quiet but firm. "I am not here to take control unfairly. I am here to demonstrate how to protect the hotel and guests. Your authority is recognized, but knowledge and skill should guide decisions, not fear or prejudice." The manager's jaw tightened. He had underestimated her. He had assumed that appearance and social position would determine influence. But Ava had shown that intelligence and courage mattered more. Ava moved closer to the central console. Her device emitted a gentle pulse, sending data through the holographic grid. The weak nodes in the system stabilized immediately. Elevators and platforms moved without interruption. Lights shimmered evenly. Every system hummed with smooth efficiency. Guests began to notice the change. Some recorded the event with their devices, whispering excitedly about the woman who had transformed the hotel in minutes. The manager glanced at the audience, realizing that his pride was being undermined by Ava's actions. He could neither enforce rules nor regain the admiration of staff and guests. Ava spoke calmly. "The system responds to knowledge, observation, and care. Authority without understanding is fragile. The strongest leadership comes from skill, honesty, and service. That is how a hotel like this can operate flawlessly." Some staff members, emboldened by her words and demonstration, began to nod quietly. They saw what she could do and recognized the value of her guidance. A technician named Lena approached her cautiously. "Your method. It actually improves efficiency while keeping the system safe." "I have never seen it done this way." Ava smiled faintly. "It is about understanding the relationships between every part. Even small nodes can affect the whole. If they are ignored, problems grow. That is why attention to detail matters. The manager's face grew red with frustration. He tried to assert control by activating the external security protocols again, but Ava anticipated this. Her device interfaced with the system in a protective mode, blocking unsafe commands while keeping the hotel running smoothly. You cannot force the system to obey without risking failure, Ava said softly, though loud enough for the manager to hear. Intelligence and precision are required. Strength and rules alone are not enough. The guests in the hub now watched quietly. Some whispered among themselves, impressed with her calm authority and skill. Others recorded her demonstration on their devices. The manager realized that any aggressive action against Ava would only make him look incompetent. Omar turned to him quietly. "Sir, she is right. The hotel is safer and more efficient now because of her work. We cannot ignore that." The manager took a deep breath. His pride wrestled with logic. Finally, he turned away, muttering under his breath. He had lost the immediate battle, but he did not yet understand that Ava's influence extended far beyond the technology. She had shown that knowledge, patience, and courage could change perception and authority. Ava continued working through the hub, adjusting minor inefficiencies and stabilizing every section of the hotel. She observed the floating platforms, ensuring smooth alignment, corrected sensor calibrations that had been overlooked for months. Each adjustment was small, but together they transformed the hotel's operation. The staff began to gather around her, asking questions and watching intently. Ava explained each correction calmly, using simple terms and clear examples. Her presence had a quiet authority. She did not demand respect. She earned it through action. A guest approached her cautiously. "Excuse me? I saw the elevators stop earlier. How did you fix them so quickly?" Ava smiled politely. "I studied the system. Every connection, every platform, every node affects the others. By correcting the weak points, the elevators and platforms moved smoothly again." The guest nodded, impressed. Others began to ask questions too. Ava answered each one patiently, showing how knowledge and attention could solve complex problems without conflict. Meanwhile, the manager watched from a distance. He had expected to control the situation through rules and authority, but Ava had shown that skill and intelligence could accomplish what he could not. He realized that people respected competence more than position, and that fear or prejudice could never replace understanding. Ava finished her adjustments and looked around the hub. The hotel operated flawlessly. Guests were happy, staff were confident, and even the drones hovered quietly, idle. The challenge she faced was not only technical, it was about proving that fairness, knowledge, and courage mattered in a world where authority often overlooked skill. She turned to Omar. "The hotel is now fully stabilized. Your staff can operate with confidence, and guests will have a smooth experience. No emergency interventions are needed unless unforeseen circumstances arise." Omar nodded, clearly impressed. "You have done more than I imagined. The system is better than ever." Ava smiled faintly. "It is not about doing more. It is about doing what is necessary and right. Attention, care, and knowledge make all the difference." The manager finally left the hub, his face tight with frustration and pride. He had learned, though unwillingly, that his position could not replace skill or judgment. Ava had turned the situation to her advantage, not through confrontation, but through competence and calm determination. Guests returned to their suites, whispering about the extraordinary woman who had transformed the hotel's operations. Staff watched Ava with admiration, learning from her example. The hub had become a place of quiet inspiration, showing that knowledge and courage could triumph over arrogance and prejudice. Ava walked among the staff, explaining small details and giving guidance where needed. Every correction she made improved efficiency and safety. Her calm and methodical approach created trust and admiration. People realized that authority alone was not enough. The ability to understand, act, and improve made a person truly powerful. By the end of the evening, the hub was quiet and orderly. Drones hovered silently, inactive. Guests were happy. Staff were confident. The hotel had been transformed not by force or rules, but by skill, patience, and intelligence. Ava paused for a moment, observing the systems she had stabilized. Her device pulsed gently, a reminder of the work she had done and the challenges ahead. The next step would require even more skill, strategy, and courage. But she was ready. She had proven that knowledge and patience could overcome prejudice and arrogance. The hotel was safe, efficient, and smooth, and Ava had earned respect without demanding it. Above the city, Solaris Tower glowed brightly. Inside, a quiet transformation was taking place. One woman's courage, skill, and patience had begun to reshape the perception of everyone around her. Ava walked calmly through the hub, ready for the next stage, knowing that each small victory brought her closer to achieving something far greater than anyone had imagined. The next morning, Solaris Tower glowed like a beacon above the city. Sunlight reflected off the glass walls, and the anti-gravity platforms carried guests smoothly across levels. Ava walked calmly through the lobby, her device secure in its case. She had spent the night reviewing the hotel's systems and making small improvements to ensure stability. Each adjustment, though subtle, had made a difference. The hotel was no longer only a place of luxury, it was a model of efficiency and safety. Guests were already gathering in the lobby, murmuring among themselves. Some had recorded her demonstrations on their devices. Ava noticed the excitement in their eyes. News of her actions had spread quickly. People were impressed by how a single person had stabilized a massive floating hotel and improved its operations in such a short time. A hotel staff member, Lena, approached her cautiously. "Ava, some guests want to meet you. They heard about what you did yesterday. They say you saved the hotel from major failure." Ava nodded politely. "I am happy to help, but I do not need recognition. My goal is to ensure safety and efficiency. That is all." Still, she followed Lena to a group of guests waiting in the lobby. Among them were investors, city officials, and technology experts. Their eyes lit up as they saw her approach. One guest stepped forward. "You are the woman who fixed the entire hotel's energy system in minutes." Ava nodded. "Yes. I identified weak nodes and stabilized them to prevent failure. The hotel is now fully operational and safe." The guests exchanged impressed glances. One investor said, "This is remarkable. We have never seen anyone with such understanding and control of complex systems." Ava smiled faintly. Knowledge, observation, and careful action can make a difference. Machines and rules are tools, but understanding and skill are what create results. Omar, the technical director, joined the group. "She is correct. The hotel is more stable than ever. The staff and guests can operate confidently, and efficiency has improved. I have worked in this field for years, and I have never seen such results." The guests nodded in agreement. They were impressed not only by her skill, but by her calm and confident demeanor. Ava had not demanded attention or used force. She had earned respect through competence and quiet determination. Meanwhile, the manager observed from his office. Pride and fear battled inside him. He could not deny Ava's success, but he still struggled to accept that someone he had initially dismissed had outperformed his staff and the security protocols he trusted. He tapped his fingers nervously on his desk. Realizing that the hotel's public image now rested on Ava's actions, Ava noticed the manager's tension but did not let it distract her. She continued speaking with the guests, explaining subtle improvements she had made to the energy grid and platform systems. Each explanation was simple, clear, and easy to understand. Guests listened intently, asking questions that she answered patiently. One city official stepped forward. "Your work could benefit other buildings and floating platforms across the city. We should consider implementing your methods on a larger scale." Eva nodded. "That is possible. The principles are universal. Efficient operation depends on understanding the systems, observing patterns, and applying precise interventions. If these principles are applied elsewhere, many failures can be prevented." The guests murmured with approval. Investors exchanged notes, excited by the possibility of applying her skills and devices in other locations. Technology experts asked questions about her prototype device and its capabilities. Ava explained how it interfaced with energy grids, stabilized weak points, and maintained balance across large structures. She spoke calmly, never boasting, letting her results speak for themselves. Back in the lobby, more staff members gathered around. They had observed Ava's actions and realized that competence mattered more than rules or appearance. Many nodded quietly, inspired by her approach. Lena whispered to Ava, "Everyone is talking about you. They respect you for what you did, not because of who you are, but because of what you accomplished." Ava smiled faintly. That is the way it should be. Knowledge and action should be respected. Authority without understanding is fragile. The results are what matter. Word of Ava's actions spread rapidly. News feeds, city channels, and personal devices captured her demonstration and explained how she had stabilized Solaris Tower. People praised her intelligence, courage, and integrity. Her calm demeanor and skill had transformed a tense situation into an opportunity for improvement and inspiration. The manager, watching the news updates, realized that the hotel's reputation now depended on Ava. Guests were posting videos, praising her work and sharing her story. His authority had been challenged, but he could not oppose the public perception. Pride and logic collided inside him. He had learned a difficult lesson. Competence and fairness earn respect in ways that force and authority never can. Ava continued to work quietly in the operations hub. She adjusted minor inefficiencies, calibrated sensors, and optimized energy flows. Each correction improved efficiency and guest experience. Staff observed and asked questions, learning from her example. The hub became a center of quiet inspiration, a place where people realized that knowledge and courage could solve complex problems without confrontation. Omar approached her. "Ava, your work has not only improved the hotel, but also changed how the staff sees themselves and their roles. They now understand the value of knowledge and careful action. You have inspired everyone here." Ava nodded politely. It is not about inspiring. It is about showing what is possible when skill and care are applied. Every system, every team, and every building can function better if attention and understanding are present. As the day progressed, more influential people arrived at Solaris Tower. Investors, city leaders, and innovators wanted to meet Ava and learn about her methods. She demonstrated her device to them, explaining in simple terms how it could be applied to other buildings, transportation networks, and energy grids. Her calm authority impressed everyone. She did not raise her voice or demand attention. She spoke only when necessary, letting results and clarity demonstrate her value. The manager, now facing both staff and public admiration for Ava, realized that he could no longer oppose her. His previous attempts to assert control had failed. He understood that respect was earned through action, competence, and fairness, not by demanding it. Ava's influence continued to grow. Staff members who had once hesitated to trust her now sought her guidance. Technicians who had struggled with the hotel's complex systems now worked more confidently under her quiet mentorship. Guests who had witnessed her work spoke about her to others, spreading her reputation beyond the hotel. By evening, Solaris Tower had become more than a hotel. It was a symbol of innovation, competence, and fairness. Ava had transformed it through her skill, patience, and courage. Her calm and methodical approach had won the admiration of staff, guests, and influential leaders. The manager finally approached Ava. His expression was cautious, but he spoke politely. "Ava, your work has improved this hotel beyond my expectations. I realize now that authority alone cannot guarantee results. Knowledge, patience, and careful action are what create success. I will support your efforts from this point forward." Ava nodded, acknowledging his words. "Thank you. I am here to help, not to dominate. The goal is safety, efficiency, and fairness. When those are achieved, success follows naturally." Guests and staff watched the exchange quietly. They understood that a shift had taken place. Respect and influence were no longer determined by rank or appearance, but by skill, intelligence, and integrity. Ava had proven that a single individual, acting with knowledge and courage, could change perceptions, systems, and outcomes. As night fell, Solaris Tower glowed brighter than ever. Its systems operated flawlessly, guests enjoyed seamless service, and staff moved with confidence. Ava stood quietly in the operations hub, observing the energy flows and monitoring systems. She had achieved recognition, but she knew her work was not complete. Greater challenges lay ahead, and she was ready to face them with the same calm, patient, and determined approach that had brought her this far. Her influence extended beyond the hotel. Investors and city officials had already contacted her about projects that could benefit from her expertise. The news of her actions had inspired young engineers, innovators, and leaders across the city. Ava had become a symbol of what skill, courage, and integrity could achieve. In the quiet of the hub, Ava reflected on her journey so far. She had arrived at Solaris Tower as an outsider, facing doubt, resistance, and prejudice. She had proven her value not through confrontation, but through intelligence, careful action, and perseverance. Every adjustment, every demonstration, and every act of patience had transformed perception and built trust. Ava knew that the final stage of her journey was approaching. Her influence, reputation, and skill had earned her recognition. But she would soon need to convert this recognition into opportunity. Solaris Tower, once a symbol of exclusivity and rigid authority, was now a place where knowledge, competence, and courage could thrive. She smiled faintly, ready for the next step. The challenges ahead would require strategic thinking, leadership, and continued dedication. Ava had proven that a single person could make a difference. Now, she would show what a single person could achieve when. The morning sun reflected off the glass walls of Solaris Tower, casting long beams of light across the city. Ava walked calmly through the lobby, her case containing the prototype device secure at her side. Guests and staff alike moved with ease, their expressions reflecting curiosity, admiration, and quiet excitement. The events of the previous days had transformed the hotel from a place of rigid rules and tension into a hub of confidence, innovation, and possibility. Ava paused at the center of the lobby. Observing the activity around her, floating platforms glided effortlessly, energy flows were stable, and staff moved with confidence. The hotel's systems operated perfectly, yet she knew that stability alone was not enough. Solaris Tower had potential far beyond being a luxurious retreat. It could become a place where knowledge, skill, and courage were celebrated, where innovation thrived, and where people could learn to reach their highest potential. Omar, the technical director, approached her with a smile. Ava, your work has already changed how the hotel operates. Guests and staff alike are inspired. Investors and city officials are eager to meet with you about new projects. Ava nodded. Thank you, Omar. But our work here is not finished. Solaris Tower can be more than a hotel. It can be a hub for innovation and learning. It can be a place where talent is valued above privilege. Omar glanced around the lobby. That would be extraordinary. But the manager. Ava turned her gaze toward the office on the upper level. The manager watched quietly, his pride and authority now tempered by respect for her skill and vision. The manager, Ava said softly, will need guidance. He understands now that authority alone is not enough. He will see that cooperation and knowledge benefit everyone. The manager stepped forward, his expression cautious but sincere. Ava, I must admit, I underestimated you. You have shown that skill, patience, and courage can achieve more than rules or status alone. I am willing to support your vision for the hotel. Ava smiled faintly. Thank you. My goal is to transform Solaris Tower into a place where people can contribute their best ideas, learn, and innovate. That is how the hotel, its staff, and its guests will all benefit. The manager hesitated, then nodded. I understand. I will step aside where needed and support your decisions. You have earned this opportunity. Word spread quickly. Investors, innovators, and city officials gathered in the lobby to meet Ava. Her calm authority and expertise impressed everyone. she demonstrated her device again, explaining how it could stabilize energy grids and improve operations not just at Solaris Tower, but across other buildings, transportation networks, and infrastructure in the city. Her explanations were clear, simple, and practical. Guests and staff listened intently, eager to understand and learn. One investor, impressed by her clarity and vision, said, "Ava, we want to partner with you. Your methods and your device could revolutionize energy systems throughout the city." "Solaris Tower is only the beginning," Ava nodded. "That is possible. But we must first ensure that the hotel itself functions as a model of efficiency, fairness, and innovation. Once we achieve that, the principles can be applied elsewhere." Staff members, inspired by her leadership and competence, gathered around to ask questions and learn from her. Ava guided them patiently, explaining the systems in simple, understandable terms. She emphasized that every individual could make a difference when they applied knowledge, attention, and care to their work. Guests who had previously doubted her watched with growing admiration. They realized that true influence came not from wealth or status, but from skill, courage, and integrity. Solaris Tower was now a place where merit and innovation could thrive. Ava walked to the center of the lobby and addressed everyone present. "This hotel is no longer just a place for luxury. It is a place where knowledge matters, where skill is respected, and where courage and patience are rewarded. Our goal is to create an environment where everyone can contribute, learn, and grow. Together, we can achieve more than any individual could alone." The lobby erupted in quiet applause. Staff smiled, guests nodded in agreement, and even the manager acknowledged her words with a respectful nod. Solaris Tower had been transformed. Its systems operated flawlessly, its people worked with confidence, and its purpose had grown beyond simple luxury to become a center of learning and innovation. Over the next few days, Ava worked tirelessly to implement her vision. She collaborated with Omar and the staff to create training programs, workshops, and research opportunities. Technicians learned to monitor and maintain energy systems with greater understanding and efficiency. Guests who were innovators and engineers were invited to participate in collaborative projects. The hotel became a place where ideas flourished, problems were solved collaboratively, and innovation was celebrated. Ava's device became a tool for learning as well as safety. Staff members practiced stabilizing energy nodes, understanding system relationships, and applying precision adjustments. The lessons they learned under Ava's guidance extended beyond. Many planned to use these methods in their own workplaces. Spreading the impact of her work throughout the city, investors and city officials continued to visit. They observed the improvements, asked questions, and offered support. Ava explained every detail with patience, emphasizing that knowledge, observation, and careful action could transform not only the hotel, but entire systems and communities. Her vision extended beyond Solaris Tower to the city as a whole, demonstrating that a single individual with skill and courage could influence far more than anyone expected. The manager gradually accepted his new role. He learned from Ava, observing how she guided staff and interacted with guests. Pride no longer blinded him. He realized that supporting knowledge and skill created better results than asserting authority alone. He became an advocate for her vision. Encouraging staff to embrace collaboration, learning, and innovation, Ava also began inviting young engineers and innovators from across the city to Solaris Tower. They came to observe, learn, and contribute ideas. Under her guidance, they tested prototypes, analyzed systems, and practiced stabilizing energy flows. The hotel became a hub of creativity and education, a place where talent was recognized and nurtured. Guests, too, participated. Those with skills or knowledge contributed to projects or learned new techniques. Everyone realized that Solaris Tower was no longer just a hotel. It was a place where anyone with ideas and courage could make a difference. Ava had created a community where innovation, fairness, and skill were valued above wealth, status, or appearance. Word of Ava's work spread beyond the city. News outlets reported on her achievements, praising her intelligence, patience, and courage. People admired her ability to transform a tense situation into an opportunity for improvement and inspiration. Her calm, confident approach became an example of leadership through skill, integrity, and perseverance. The staff at Solaris Tower continued to grow under her guidance. Every system operated smoothly, every guest received excellent service, and every team member learned to approach challenges with knowledge and care. Ava's influence extended far beyond technical improvements. She had created an environment where people felt empowered, respected, and capable. One evening, as the city lights reflected on the floating platforms of Solaris Tower, Ava stood quietly in the operations hub. Her device pulsed softly, monitoring energy flows across the hotel. She watched the staff, guests, and collaborators working together, sharing ideas and solving problems. A sense of satisfaction filled her. She had arrived as an outsider, faced doubt and resistance, and transformed the hotel into a place of innovation, learning, and fairness. The manager approached her once more. "Ava, I see now what you have accomplished. Solaris Tower is no longer just a hotel. It is a model of excellence, cooperation, and skill. You have changed everything here." Ava nodded. "It is not just my work. Every staff member, every guest, and every collaborator has contributed. This is what happens when knowledge, courage, and care are applied. The results benefit everyone." The manager smiled, humbled. "I will ensure that your vision continues. I will support your leadership and encourage staff to follow your example." Ava returned the smile. "Thank you. Together, we can make Solaris Tower a place where everyone is inspired to reach their best, and where innovation and fairness thrive." As night fell, Solaris Tower shone like a beacon over the city. Floating platforms glided smoothly. Lights reflected off the glass walls, and energy flowed evenly through every system. Guests moved with ease, staff operated confidently, and young innovators and engineers worked alongside Ava, learning and contributing ideas. Ava stood in the center of the operations hub, looking out over the city. She knew her work had transformed more than just the hotel's systems. She had changed perceptions, inspired people, and created a place where knowledge and courage mattered more than rules, status, or appearance. Her journey had begun with a confrontation, a test of skill and patience, and it had ended with transformation. Solaris Tower was no longer just a hotel. It was a center of innovation, learning, and hope. Ava had proven that one person, acting with knowledge, courage, and integrity, could make a difference not just for themselves, but for everyone around them.